Is Naoya really a fraud? Or was his potential nerfed? When people talk about the most controversial characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, one name almost always appears in the debate: Naoya Zenin. Some fans call him a complete fraud. Others believe he was one of the most talented sorcerers whose potential was wasted. So the real question is, was Naoya actually weak? Or did the story nerf him before we could see his true strength? Today we're going to break this down by looking at Naoya's talent and abilities, his fights and what they reveal, why fans call him a fraud, and finally, whether his potential was actually nerfed. By the end, you might see Naoya very differently. 1. Who was Naoya Zenin? First, let's understand who Naoya actually was. Naoya was a member of the powerful Zenin clan, one of the 3 great sorcerer families. Within the clan hierarchy, Naoya was considered a prodigy. He inherited the clan's prized curse technique, projection sorcery. This technique was originally used by Naoya Zenin, the former clan head and one of the fastest sorcerers in the world. Projection sorcery works by dividing 1 second into 24 frames. The user must plan their movement across those frames like an animation. If they succeed, they move at insane speeds, essentially turning their body into a high-speed sequence of movements. But if someone touches the user and fails to follow the same 24-frame rule, their body freezes for 1 second. So in the right hands, projection sorcery becomes an incredibly deadly technique. And Naoya mastered it. In fact, he was considered one of the fastest sorcerers alive. That already puts him in a pretty elite category. 2. Naoya's talent and compatibility. Before calling someone a fraud, we should look at their abilities. Naoya had several impressive traits. 1. Extreme speed. Naoya's greatest weapon was his speed. Even powerful fighters struggled to keep up with him. At full acceleration, he could reach speeds comparable to high-level sorcerers. This already places him far above the average fighter. 2. Tactical intelligence. Despite being arrogant, Naoya wasn't stupid in battle. He quickly analyzed his opponents. During his fight with Maki Zenin, he carefully observed her movements and adjusted his strategy. He knew exactly how projection sorcery interacted with physical fighters. This shows he had combat IQ, not just speed. 3. High cursed energy control. Naoya also had strong cursed energy reinforcement. Even after taking several hits, he kept fighting. This means his durability and energy control were far above average sorcerers. So based purely on abilities, Naoya was not weak at all. In fact, he was a high-tier grade 1 sorcerer. But then why do so many fans call him a fraud? 3. The main reason people call Naoya a fraud. The answer comes down to one major fight: his battle with Maki Zenin. After the destruction of the Zenin clan, Maki underwent a massive transformation. She reached a level comparable to Toji Fushiguro, a legendary fighter who had no cursed energy but possessed insane physical ability. When Naoya fought Maki, he expected an easy victory. Instead, he got completely overwhelmed. Maki adapted to his speed, read his movements, and eventually defeated him. To many fans, this moment made Naoya look like a fraud, because he spent the entire arc acting arrogant, calling others weak, and claiming superiority. Yet when he finally faced a real monster like Maki, he lost badly. And that's why the fraud label started spreading in the fandom. But here's the thing: losing to Maki doesn't automatically make someone weak. 4. Why losing to Maki doesn't make Naoya weak. Let's be honest for a moment. The version of Maki he fought was basically Toji 2.0. And Toji himself was strong enough to nearly kill Satoru Gojo. That's an insane level of power. Most grade 1 sorcerers would get destroyed instantly. But Naoya actually kept up with her for a while. He managed to land hits. He analyzed her abilities. He even pushed her into adapting. That alone shows he wasn't just some random weak character. He was fighting someone far beyond normal sorcerer level. So calling him a fraud purely because he lost to Maki might be unfair. 5. The bigger problem: Naoya's personality. Another reason people hate Naoya is his personality. He's arrogant. He's misogynistic. And he constantly belittles other characters. Because of this, many fans were already rooting for his downfall. So when he lost, it felt satisfying. And that satisfaction turned into the Naoya fraud meme. But narrative satisfaction doesn't always equal power scaling. Sometimes a character loses simply because the story demands it. 6. The true tragedy of Naoya's potential. Now here's where things get interesting. Naoya might actually be one of the most wasted characters in the story. Why? Because we barely got to see his full potential. Projection sorcery is an extremely complex technique. Its limits were never fully explored. Imagine if Naoya had developed advanced variations, increased frame control, combined speed with curse techniques, or even unlocked a domain expansion. The possibilities were huge, but the story never gave him enough time to evolve. 7. The curse form Naoya. After his death, Naoya returned as a vengeful cursed spirit, and this version of him was actually terrifying. His speed increased dramatically, his power scaled to a much higher level, and suddenly, he became a real threat again. In this form, he forced multiple strong fighters to work together to stop him. This version of Naoya shows what he could have been if his development continued. It proves that the character still had massive potential. 8. Was Naoya nerfed by the story? So now we reach the big question. Was Naoya nerfed? In some ways, yes. Not because the author made him weaker than he should be, but because his screen time was extremely limited. Characters like Megumi Fushiguro or Yuji Itadori received long arcs to grow. Naoya appeared mainly as an antagonist in a single storyline. That means his development was cut short. If he had appeared earlier in the story or survived longer, we might have seen a much stronger version of him. 9. The real answer: fraud or wasted potential. So after analyzing everything, what's the truth? Is Naoya a fraud? Not really. Fraud implies someone who pretends to be strong but isn't. But Naoya clearly had real power. He had one of the fastest techniques in the series: elite clan training, high battle IQ, strong cursed energy control. Those are not the traits of a fraud. However, he also wasn't among the absolute top-tier monsters of the series. Characters like Gojo exist on a completely different level. So the real conclusion is this: Naoya wasn't a fraud. He was a powerful sorcerer whose arrogance made his downfall inevitable. And because his story ended quickly, his potential never had the chance to fully bloom. Final thoughts. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, strength isn't the only thing that matters. Mindset, adaptability, and growth determine who survives. Naoya had talent. He had speed. He had one of the most unique techniques in the series. But his arrogance blinded him. And in a world full of monsters like Maki, Toji, and Gojo, that arrogance cost him everything. So maybe the real tragedy of Naoya Zenin isn't that he was weak. It's that we never got to see how strong he could have become. I hope you enjoy the video. Subscribe for more.